So we just recently put out a video and we talked about what each first round pick in the 2023 draft is currently worth.
Right?
If you want to trade it away, if you want to trade for some picks, and you guys loved that video, over 200 likes. Thank you so much for the support.
Love.
Let's see if on this one we can get even higher. We are looking at the second round. A lot of people talking about the first round. Let's go even deeper together. We're going to look at what each second round pick in the 2023 Dynasty rookie class is worth. 201 to 212. Trade ideas, what you could trade them away for, or what you could trade away to get those picks.
Yeah.
So, again, do us a favor, drop a like to show some support. Subscribe if you like Dynasty content. And I want you to comment down below. How many second round picks have you got in your home league? What are you planning on doing with them? I'll start with the 201 Badake. And this is a sweet spot for a lot of players that we like in rookie drafts. So
100%.
It's an interesting one to trade away because I think the 201 this year is quite valuable. The 201 to the 204 is a spot that you and I really like, specifically with some running backs, tight ends, and a couple wide receivers. Not really any quarterbacks. But if you need a quarterback and you have the 201, how about Russell Wilson, a player that we have brought, even myself specifically, brought as a buy low in January before the Sean Payton announcement. That only made it more difficult to trade for him.
Yes.
But now I think this is more than fair to send away the 201 for Russell Wilson, as in I would be comfortable, super comfortable to send away the 201 to go get Russell Wilson in a Superflex Dynasty League. Obviously, if you're in one quarterback, that's different, but played awful last season. Enter Sean Payton, one of the best coaches that genuinely you could not think of a better coach.
Yeah.
Honestly, you couldn't think of a better coach to enter. Another name that you could look at is Jared Goff. You might have to add a couple pieces. I personally would rather have Russell Wilson. Maybe that's crazy for me to say. I just think there's more long-term commitment there. Now, if you need a running back, I am most likely going to stick and pick here at the 201. A lot of running backs that we like that could be available. Of course, the combine is about to happen, so we'll find out how these running backs test out. But Zach Evans, who I don't think is actually testing, unfortunately. We like Zach Evans. I do. Sean Tucker, Devin A. Chain. If you like Tajay Spears, if you like Kendre Miller, right? This is kind of that hot spot for those running backs who are kind of past the top 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, if I am going to trade away the 201 and try and get a running back, there's 2 running backs in particular that you would have to add more than the 201, but it's worth exploring. J.K. Dobbins, Dameon Pierce. Like, if there's a way you can send the 201 for those 2 names, I'm comfortable to do it. But let's talk about running backs that I would sell in order to get the 201. Look, unless you are win now, you're not going to get more than this for Derrick Henry. I know you want a first-round pick. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. Any experienced dynasty player who understands the minimum of aging running backs is not going to give you a first-round pick for a 29, soon-to-be 30-year-old running back, okay, who has a lot of mileage on him. The 201 is probably the max you're going to get. So I would prefer the 201 right now. I know that's controversial. I also prefer the 201 over Isaiah Pacheco. Look, I'm a Chiefs fan. Great offseason, or great year. Great postseason, rather. Really important in the playoffs. Still 7th round draft capital, which means the team did not invest very much in him.
Exactly.
Let's move on to the wide receiver spot. I have one name in particular that I think you could target with the 201, and there's not a lot of guys outside of him that I love at this spot, but I would say Deontay Johnson, my biggest sell high all last offseason, and we've come full circle now. Hopefully you sold him high last offseason, but now you have a chance to buy him potentially low. Keep in mind, last year he was 16th in targets at 8.6 targets per game. In targets per game. He had 147 total targets. So there's a couple other options that you might be able to consider, but I think the 201 is a difficult spot for wide receivers. And if you need a tight end, I would say draft Michael Mayer at this spot or trade back and try and get Dalton Kincaid. So those would be the kind of trades I'm looking at with the 201. What are you thinking about with the 202 here?
Yeah, with the 202s, some players are similar, but definitely a guy that I really liked that Zach mentioned was Russell Wilson. But I bought 2 different type of quarterbacks. I just wanted to highlight Russell there. So at the 202, if you are in need of a quarterback, Derek Carr, even though he doesn't have a team right now, so many rumors of places that he can go. Does he go to the Saints? Does he go to the Jets? Maybe in a win now window, and you want to pay for a cheap I guess quote unquote cheap running back with the 202 or quarterback, excuse me. You can get Derek Carr. And another one I believe you can get right now that I think there's also an even bigger window. You could probably get him a little bit later, but if you still need to pay him at the 202, Jordan Love is also
Yes,
available out
I
there
like it.
if you need to get a quarterback. If you believe in the Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers leaving, Jordan Love coming in and him stepping into this role, if that is going to be an option. And Zach and I, like Zach said, we both like Jordan Love. We both believe in Jordan Love. Hopefully he gets the opportunity, but I guess this is the highest we would pay for Jordan Love. I'm pretty sure we will hear his name further into the video. Running backs, I agree. I did have Isaiah Pacheco as well. That's a guy I am willing to trade away and get some value. And like we said, we'd rather have some of these other quarterbacks, was that Sean Tucker, a Sharby, a Zach Evans. Is he gonna get really good draft capital? Maybe he goes in the early second. Whatever the case may be, that is definitely an option. Another guy I was thinking maybe you're in the win now window, or maybe there's an opportunity for some way, somehow, a Joe Mixon. It sounds crazy, but Joe Mixon also has a really weird window of how much his value is fluctuating right now. So I would say this is probably, I want to say his lowest right now. I think you can probably get him for like a 203 or 204 potentially. But I think he's right on the edge here at the 202 if you want to get a Joe Mixon in the running back room, if you just need that guy and you believe that maybe, hey, the Bengals going to have a 1 year stint with his last year with Joe Mixon. Wide receivers, not that much in my opinion. Amari Cooper, top 10 wide receiver this past year at the 202. Another guy you can go out and get if you are in a win now window. Deshaun Watson. I mean, he only played 7 games with Deshaun Watson, finished top 10 wide receiver in 2022. So, I mean, why not go and get somebody right now? I mean, he's 28 years old, going to be 29 very soon. Another guy you can get, you might have to throw a little bit more into the pot. Probably could be Rashad Bateman. Just on the a little bit heavier edge, I guess according to Keep Trade, because is leaning more towards the 202. But if you believe in Lamar Jackson and what he can do, then I would definitely do that. I will also say one other name that I think we also will hear a little bit later, but I think I would also pay at this very top right here at the 202, the top of the second. Calvin Ridley is also another guy I would say you can potentially get here if you believe in the extension, right? If you believe in that he's going to continue. But I think this is the highest I would pay for him. But once again, there's also a window probably here about him a little bit early. And I would agree with Zach in the tight end. I would definitely go. I don't know if I want to go with the tight end right now, but the highest guy I would go personally in the tight end position is probably Pat the Dragon. I feel really comfortable getting Pat the Dragon right now. 24 years old, another year with Kenny, another year in this offense. I'm going to really like where he's going to be going. So at the 202, that's kind of my thought process with all these guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of like everything I was about to say with the 203. You kind of
once again
took there.
It's the window. It's the window.
I will add to the 203 because the 202 and the 203 are relatively similar. I would say a lot of those names you're kind of reaching a little bit with the 202. I would say the 203 becomes kind of that point where that value becomes a little bit more even based off of the current market price.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Love, for example, for the 203 feels very comfortable based off what we've seen in trades. And y'all know I've been saying to stash this guy not for months, for years. I've been telling you to stash Jordan Love for years.
Right.
And this is the year that you and I, all those people out there who did that, we get to feel good about finally doing that. Mac Jones was an option here at the 203.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to trade for Mac Jones, though. Like, I'll just be honest. Like, it's an option out there for you guys. I just don't want to buy in on him at this point, at this price point at the 203. Now, running back, I also was going to bring Joe Mixon. And my question was at the 203, is this really possible? Can you really get Joe Mixon for the 203? I understand the concerns with the cap situation in Cincinnati and future players that they need to sign, but I would absolutely send the 203 away. Like that risk reward there, especially if you're a win now team right now competing for the next couple of years. Joe Mixon is 26 years old, but be 27 soon. But so he's not like the Aaron Jones age. He's not the Derrick Henry age.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's worth it. A couple names which we haven't mentioned yet at the running back spot, and I think could add a lot of information here. What about Rachaad White? Does Rachaad White become a good value here at the 203?
Right.
Personally, I don't think Lenny makes much sense to be on this team at all. Number one, as a player. Did you guys watch the Bucks games last year? This was a brick trying to walk in the open field. It was rough. It was rough. There's not much explosiveness left in those legs, in those knees. Rachaad White's clearly the player that they're probably going to rock with for the future. Tom Brady's not there anymore. This is not a team that's really going to be competing, I don't think.
Right.
And when you think about the 203, if you need a running back, isn't this kind of exactly what you're hoping to get? Right? I mean, aren't you hoping to get a player like Rachaad White with his draft capital, with his opportunity? I don't know. I feel like Rachaad White's a good buy there, coming into his sophomore season. The only risk here, really, because I think Linney's not going to be a part of this team in the future. For me, the only risk is that they draft another running back this year. But this team going into a complete rebuild, I know we see Bijan mocked there sometimes. I'm just asking myself why would they do that in a complete rebuild? So I think Rachaad White's a good buy there. How about Dalvin Cook? I think he's a sell. I think I want to sell Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
203 here. The only way you ride him out is if you're a competing team. Otherwise, I think if you're rebuilding, the 203, 202 is the most you're gonna get. And then if I can advise anything, it's to cash in on Tyler Algier. If you can send Tyler Algier away and get the 203, this is the time to cash in. Look, I know people are going to say, what do you mean? He was very good last year, had a lot of yards. I understand. The common misconception with Tyler Algier is that it was not a bad rushing offense. It was a bad passing offense. This was one of those offenses, they ran the ball more than anyone in the entire league. That offensive line was beefed up, high yards per carry for every single guy back there. This was not a bad offense for running backs. So he had an impressive season. He also had, a very good offense to be a part of. And think about it. You drafted him late second, mid third last year in rookie drafts. It's like a put option in the stock market. Yeah. If you can get this price, if you can get the 203, okay, well, it's time to sell. You've already made money on your investment. So there's a lot of running backs that I like there that I think will have better draft capital over 5th round. I was going to bring Calvin. If you can get Calvin for the 203, that's an easy smash. And I was going to bring Bateman as well. I think if you can get Bateman for the 203, again, that's an easy smash for me. 1st round wide receiver, uber talented, hasn't been able to stay healthy, but when he has, he's been a true difference maker for that team. Mark Andrews has talked previously in interviews this offseason about this team needing to be more pass focused, pass centric. That's the way the NFL is moving. I wouldn't be surprised if Bateman, maybe the Ravens draft someone, but they're certainly not going to bring in a free agent that has a bigger role than him. So at the tight end position, I don't think Michael Mayer's here. It's a prime trade back spot if you really need a tight end. Otherwise, I think draft running backs or wide receivers here. So yeah.
No, definitely makes sense. At the 203 for the 204, I started my quarterback position. I have a couple guys. I did have Mac Jones. Once again, kind of like what Zach said. I mean, do you really want to invest in Mac Jones with everything going on? Isn't it? Yeah, I mean, where else can you take a shot there? Another guy that I will actually feel a little bit more comfortable with, just based off of all the rumors and everything coming out, Geno Smith, especially the way he played this past year. Geno Smith is available here, or is a good even trade for the 204. Did pretty well this past year. Finished top 5 quarterback, which is crazy to even think about. Does he stay with Seattle Seahawks? Does he go to the Jets, where there was literally rumors probably, as we're recording this, probably 30 minutes ago, that there was a tweet came out saying, hey, the Jets could be interested in bringing back Geno, which is crazy. On the running back position, I also had Tyler Algier, a good opportunity to cash in. Another guy that I did have that I'll highlight right now actually is Miles Sanders. Another guy, and keep in mind, guys, we keep saying this all off season. It is really difficult to invest in any sort of running backs right now that are free agents, like the Miles Sanders, the Joe Mixons, all these guys that are in betweens, and David Montgomerys. We just don't know what's going to happen. But if you believe in Miles and you believe that he's going to be landing in a spot that is better for whoever's going to be available at the 204. Then maybe you can get him here at the 204 with Miles Sanders. Only 25 years old, going to be 26 at this year. I doubt they re-signs with the Eagles, but maybe he goes to another team, right? Maybe he goes to the Chiefs somehow and he gets the opportunity, or maybe he goes somewhere else. So that could be very, very interesting. In the wide receiver room, if you're going to win, I brought 2 win-now window type guys. If you wanted to, I don't know if I would want to do this, but here are some options according to Keep Trade Cut. Mike Evans for the 204. If you want to get him, 29 years old, who's the quarterback? What's going to happen? Can he finish and be that top guy again? It's going to be very risky. Also, Mike Williams. I think he did resign. He did get that contract extension with the Chargers. What's going to happen with Keenan Allen? Is he going to have to take another step if Keenan Allen continues to be hurt? Can even Mike stay healthy? So that's some risk moves that you can make here at the 204 if there's, according to your rankings, those guys are not available. And in the tight end room, I completely agree. I don't think Mayer's going to be there. There's no one is a prime position to trade back. I think for me, if I'm at the 204 and I can't trade back and I can't get anyone and Mayer's off the board, I'm looking at Dalton Kincaid and Luke Musgrave. If they're available and they had a really good draft capital, I would take a shot on one of those guys here if you're looking at the tight end position specifically. So that's what I will be doing here at the 204.
Sure. And a lot of that will have more solidified answers on after the draft, right?
Exactly.
So here at the 205, I think you could also shop Geno. I prefer Geno over the 205, but how about, and honestly, I just put this in the doc. I have no idea. You tell me if you would do this. Brock Purdy, the 205.
Right.
I have absolutely no idea. According to the community right now, you can make this trade. What do you prefer? Do you just cash in on the playoff performance? Like we talked about with Algier, hey, what did you spend on him last year? You're cashing in. You're making money here. If you believe in Brock Purdy, go trade for him.
Right.
If you're someone like me who still has that feeling, maybe it's because of my bias towards Trey Lance, but I still have that feeling that he's probably going to be the starter based off of what they invested in him, then maybe you trade Brock Purdy away for the 205 or the 204.
Yeah, makes sense.
I guess it would depend. Like, hey, do I need a running back? That's a good spot for a running back. Or if I only have two quarterbacks, let's say I have Pat Mahomes and Kyler Murray. Well, maybe I hold on to Brock Purdy because Kyler Murray is currently injured. So just you tell me in the comments below. Would you prefer the 205 or Brock Purdy? Because I think some people are underestimating this injury. I really think this could be a significant career injury.
It doesn't look good for him right now.
Not a doctor, though.
Not a doctor.
If you need a running back, I don't think I've ever suggested this in my entire life. I can't believe we're here. He was a sell for me all last offseason.
Who is it?
I was lower than consensus. Let's talk about James Cook. James Cook for the 205.
Okay.
Again, I've never in my life suggested that you guys go out and buy James Cook based off his price. That's because of what the price was. Here we are. Okay. The Bills, if they don't bring back Devin Singletary, if they don't draft another running back, I would consider this move. But again, this is a big if. There's a lot of risk here because a lot of people have projected free agent running backs going to Buffalo. Bijan potentially going to Buffalo. Jahmyr Gibbs potentially going to Buffalo. There was talks about them wanting Alvin Kamara last year. So use caution. If you can make this deal with the information after the NFL draft, I feel much better about it. But hey, this is one of the best risk rewards I could find. And James Cook, to be fair, I was never high on him like some others, but you did see the value in him late season of how he could take that role if they wanted to stay cheap at the position. Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, I'd probably stick and pick for running back here. I mean, I'm thinking about it. If I can get Devin A-Chain, I'm going A-Chain, assuming he gets top 3, in the first 3 rounds, he gets drafted.
For sure.
If you need a wide receiver, this is not the place to trade. The 205, you're not getting any names that I really like in the market right now, genuinely. If you need a wide receiver, you're probably going to need to package that 205 and trade up. Either for a wide receiver that you like or to the 110 to the 202. Kind of in that Zay Flowers, Kayshon Boutte, Josh Downs territory.
Right.
Now, here at the 205, I would say this is where I'd be comfortable drafting Dalton Kincaid, assuming he gets top 40 draft capital. Otherwise, again, just not, it's too early for tight end, and there's not one that I think you should trade for.
Mm-hmm. So for me, I mean, look, really good points. I like Dalton Kincaid a little bit earlier, but yeah, once again, it all depends on the draft capital and what's going to happen.
It's really impossible to say. I mean, if Dalton Kincaid's a 3rd round pick, are you going to take him here?
No, yeah, exactly.
No way.
That's the hard part. Exactly. All right, so from the 206, I did have the quarterback similar. It is Brock Purdy. I think this is where we see a teardrop. I was going through all these quarterbacks trying to really find out, okay, who's out there that I can invest in. I think Brock Purdy has that window of the 205, 206, and you do take the chance if you want to invest in Brock Purdy or sell him. But I mean, you get to the next guys according to community. Here are some guys that are right after Brock Purdy and Aaron Rodgers, a Sam Howell, Matthew Stafford. I'm not trading away the 206 for any of those guys right now, right? You can get so much later. So there is a teardrop there in the quarterback room for the 206. If you need a running back, why not Brian Robinson? Washington RB1, baby. Talk it up. Something special. What a comeback story for B Rob. I like this thought process. If you have I said thought process. Shout out to you guys in the comments. If you have somebody that you need in the running back room, if you need a running back, Brian Robinson could be that fill-in. If you believe in him and where he could be going in the trajectory, probably with Aaron Bieniemy and Ron Rivera, if he does stay, I like Brian Robinson here going at the 206. Another guy I would say you can get, probably paying a little bit too much, but I think I'll be really okay paying the premium here. I guess somewhat of the premium at the 206, right? David Montgomery. I think he is one of the top running backs here that is still available in the offseason, right? You think about it. Saquon Barkley, he's going to probably return to the Giants. Think of Josh Jacobs, he's probably going to return to the Giants. Then after that is Miles Sanders, if he does stay, even though he's not a free agent, but one of those guys that could be let go. And then David Montgomery. He's one of the top 5 free agent running backs that could easily step into a role. So if you want to pay that price, once we understand where he goes, then maybe the 206 is right where you need to pay for a David Montgomery. And you think about it, who I know Zach will probably say a little bit differently. I'm seeing here a Devin A. Chain, maybe a Tank Bigsby, maybe a Zach Evans, depending, Izzy. All depends on their draft capital and where they go. Then I would result into staying at the 206 here and drafting one of those running backs. Once again, we just don't know how that's going to pan out. In the wide receiver room, what's a really big teardrop here, I would say Kadarius Toney. Take a shot on KT here, the Joker at the 2.6. Really, really good price for Kadarius Toney in the way he was going in the second half of the season when he got traded to the Chiefs. Obviously, when he played with Patrick Mahomes, he played better. But at the same time, is he going to stay healthy? So that's another chance you can stay. I mean, who are the other wide receivers here? I mean, for me, maybe a Rashad Rice, a Jalen Hines. Well, I doubt Jalen Hines is going to be there. Marvin Mims, Parker Washington, some of those guys that'll be available. Once again, all depending on draft capital and where they're going to be. Tight end position, I did have a couple guys. Greg Dulcich right here, but you think about it. If Dalton Kincaid or Luke Musgrave's available, are you going with Greg Dulcich or one of these guys that probably had either similar or has a just as good of a draft capital or landing spot than Greg Dulcich, right? 22 years old. He did have a good season. He was, missed the first half of the season with those injuries. I don't know. Maybe you can consider it here. Another guy, once again, probably paying a little bit too much where he does have a window. David Njoku gets a long-term contract. This team can't really invest in the wide receiver room as they want to because, they traded all those first-round picks for Deshaun Watson, probably in a cap situation as well. David Njoku, we saw how he was going about it. He's a top 10 tight end according to the community right now. So I'll be really, really okay getting a David Njoku who is still only 26 years old going into this season. So that's my thought process there for the 208.
Yeah.
Or 206. 206,
yeah,
excuse me.
So I'm at the 207 here, and I will talk about David Montgomery. I'll give my thoughts. I'll just talk about him a little bit later because I have some specific thoughts that I would just throw out there from my perspective. But at the 207, at the quarterback spot, I know you mentioned I'm not paying the 206 for Aaron Rodgers. Here at the 207, I can see where you're coming from. But at the 207 now, I think it is very unlikely that you draft a player if you are a win now competing dynasty team.
Yeah.
It's very unlikely that you draft a player at the 207 that is going to make a bigger impact for your Superflex dynasty teams over the next 2 years, right? If you are competing right now, let's say you had Tom Brady and Pat Mahomes. Tom Brady just retired. I mean, hey, use your 207 right now. Just extend that window a little bit longer for yourself with Aaron Rodgers. And hey, if he moves on, what have we heard? Devontae Adams with the Raiders. Great. We love that. What have we heard? Garrett Wilson with the Jets. Great. We love that, along with Brees Hall. So I would say personally at the 207, that's the point where I'm like, honestly, I can't think of a player that's going to make a bigger impact for me if I'm a win now team. So I would take Aaron Rodgers there personally. If we look at the running back spot, this is where Khalil Herbert becomes a sell. If Khalil Herbert is worth a 207, I've brought him as a buy before, but when I brought him as a buy, Badake, which was only a couple months ago, you could have bought him for an early third.
Right.
301 to 303. That's not the case right now. The 207, he definitely becomes a sell. He's going to be 25 soon. He's older than some of these guys who are free agents, and the draft capital is certainly not there. So if you can cash in on Herbert for the 207, I will take the 207, and I will draft probably a more talented running back who is younger come draft day. Now, I was going to suggest Brian Robinson here, but what I more wanted to talk about is if you can sell Brian Robinson for the 204 to the 205, I'm doing it. I still think he's not the most talented running back in his own backfield, and I just can't get over that.
For sure.
I've never thought that way. Maybe it's my bias. I don't think he's the best running back in his own backfield. With Bieniemy coming in, I'm thinking, how did Bieniemy use running backs? Different system entirely, but I'm not sure where Brian Robinson fits unless the offense will just change, and that's very possible because it's different personnel. Heading on to the wide receivers, I really just have one sell and one buy. The sell, which hopefully you sold him during this completely unfounded, ridiculous hype last offseason. I was trying to tell people I don't get it. They were saying, but did you see what he did in that playoff game?
Did you see
Gabe Davis. You could have probably sold him for a late first this time last year. Hopefully you're able to do that. But now I think hopefully you're on the same page with me. It's time to turn the keys in, man. It's time to go get the 207 and see what you can get there. Gabe Davis is just a guy. He is not even a wide receiver 2 worthy receiver if they want to seriously compete for a Super Bowl. Now, a buy at the wide receiver spot, again, if you're in that, like I said earlier, 1 to 2 years timeline and you want to compete, again, I can't think of a wide receiver I can get at the 207 in the NFL draft that's going to help me more in the next 2 years as I compete than Keenan Allen. Okay? Cheaper than DeAndre Hopkins.
Right.
And he's only 1 month older than DeAndre Hopkins.
Right.
If he's cut, okay, that's fine. This is a type of player that we fully believe he will be able to translate on most teams because of his skill set, right? He's not an aging wide receiver that's a one-on-one go get the ball type guy. This is a very good route runner, one of the best route runners since he's come into the league. That will translate to another team. And then if you need a tight end, Sean Payton's in town, baby. And Greg Dulcich at the 2-7, I like it. I'm a little bit higher on Greg Dulcich, I think, but I would be willing to do this. I don't think you're getting Dalton Kincaid here, and I don't think that Luke Musgrave is guaranteed to be a better tight end than Dulcich. He absolutely can be, but Dulcich has already proven his value. As a rookie, you could not ask for more from a rookie season than what Greg Dulcich gave you, right? In the limited action he saw. So that's what I would do with the 207.
All right, here at the 208 in the quarterback position, kind of like what Zach mentioned a little bit earlier, Aaron Rodgers. I did say there was a teardrop, but if you're in the win now window, why not go out and get Aaron Rodgers? But another guy, I don't know if we did mention, I can't remember now, Sam Howell at the 208. I think it's a really good price.
I was going to talk about him at the 209. Yeah, I like it here at the 208 as well.
Yeah, it's a really good price. If he does get the opportunity, I mean, the team has advocated saying that, hey, we're going to run with Sam Howell. They just cut Carson Wentz as well, saving up some cap space as well. So that really gives you the indication that they're going to go that way, unless Anthony Richardson somehow falls to you guys, and that would be really spicy.
I would love that. I would love that, but that would give me a big old Nick Chubb, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think he falls that far.
We'll see what happens, but yeah, Sam Howell is a good quarterback here at the 208. In the running back position, I do have one guy. It is risky. I was trying to find some really good running backs, but there are some other guys I didn't really think I wanted to invest in. But here at the 208, a guy that was a fairly evenly trade for, according to Keep Trade Cut, Alvin Kamara. I know he's probably going to get suspended. Maybe he misses the first 6 games, but maybe he's a league winner for you in the second half. Maybe you already have him, or whatever the case may be. I mean, he's 27 years old. I would say he probably has another 2 years left in him. Just really depending on how you want to take this. Just to give you some other names around him, by the way.
Let's just open that conversation up. Go ahead. Because I wanted to say, I don't have him in my notes, but I wanted to talk about him.
It's just, I look at the names around him. I'm like, okay, who can I really invest in, and who do I
Sure.
really want to invest in? I'll give you the two names that are above Alvin Kamara according to the community, and the two names below: David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, I spoke about David Montgomery, and I said I would take him a little bit earlier. Then you have Kenneth Gainwell, and then Antonio Gibson, right?
Yeah, it's a weird tier.
It's a weird little area. It's like, okay, do I invest in Khalil, who's probably just going to get a job, his job taken away because they'll probably draft somebody? Same thing with the Kenneth Gainwell. Same thing with Antonio Gibson. I think the only other guy I would go for was David Montgomery, which I mentioned earlier that I would rather have him. So if you're in that window and you're saying, you know what, I'm okay to sit with Kamara if he does get suspended for six weeks or however many games, and then have him for the second half of the season, if you wanted to do that.
So I agree from the point of like the 208 is not, you're not spending too much on Alvin Kamara, right?
No.
So you can kind of like put a band-aid on a problem for you.
Mm-hmm.
The issue I have is that I only want him if he gets traded. I know that sounds weird, but it's the same coaching staff who was completely unaware of how to utilize him all last offseason,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, we saw games where he was utilized properly and he was great, but I don't, there is obviously some rift between them. So all I was going to say is like that value's good, but if he's going to miss half the season or so and then he's still with the Saints, like I want him to be somewhere else. So
For sure.
it's weird because like, are you really going to draft a better player with the 208? No, but how much, like, when is Alvin Kamara going to be a fantasy relevant guy in moving forward?
And
Like,
that's the tough
of course
part.
he will when he's there, but
Mind you, he finished running back 16, and
I'll tell you what though, I had Alvin Kamara. That one game where he almost had 50 fantasy points is pushing that number up a lot.
For sure.
He was really bad. Almost every week I had him, I regretted starting
I think
him.
even
It was not good.
even with where he was drafted according to his ADP and where he finished, definitely didn't return. But
No.
you can definitely, I think the talent is still there that you're saying a lot of people are clinging on, and I'm kind of clinging on saying, if I'm in that window and I need another running back,
It's weird. If you have Alvin though, I don't want the 208.
Yeah, exactly.
You
That's
know,
what I'm saying.
so
That's
it's
what I'm saying. So,
it's a weird place.
It is. It is. For the wide receivers, Zach mentioned it. Keenan Allen a little bit earlier. If he does stay healthy, if he does stay on the team, or if he does move on, I'm okay taking the shot here. A guy I would say you're probably paying once again the higher premium around this 208 area that still has value in my eyes. Tyler Lockett, really good guy, 30 years old, really good guy, great guy, no friend of the show, right? Tyler Lockett, I mean, he's done really really good things here with Geno Smith. If Geno does stay, he finished wide receiver 13 this past year. Tyler Lockett always returns his ADP. Does he return at the 208? I don't know. Maybe I don't know what other players. Once again, are you drafting here in the wide receiver position? Is this a Cedric Tillman if he doesn't get that too good of a draft capital? Is that a Puka Nuka? Who is that really? A Rasheed Rice? It's just kind of hard. Like, do you go for the win now window and saying I'll take Tyler Lockett, or you go with one of these younger wide receivers and just take the shot on them? So that's a guy that I would definitely look into there at the 208. In the tight end position, the Cowboys say he was going to move on. They weren't going to franchise tag him. But if he does land on a good team, Dalton Schultz, 26 years old, maybe we know a little bit more after the NFL draft and saying, let's say Dalton Schultz signs to the Commanders, right? They need a tight end, 26 years old. What happens there? Eric Bieniemy, what happens if he does go to a good team? What happens if he does go to a high-powered offense team? What if he goes to the Texans with CJ or Bryce? It's probably not going to be amazing. Do I want to do that? There's some other tight ends out there, but I would definitely take the chance once we know the landing spot and that foundation of where Dalton Schultz is going to go at the 208.
I'll say my piece on Schultz. To me, I think we're looking at exactly what happened to Austin Hooper in Atlanta.
Oh, no.
It's situational.
You think he's going to get the bag?
I think he's going to get the bag somewhere, and it's like, unless it's a good passing offense, then you don't want Dalton.
He kind of just dies off.
And that's why I'm like, if you can get Greg Dulcich a pick earlier, absolutely.
Yeah.
Give me Greg.
Sure, yeah. But what if he goes to the Bengals? Bengals need a tight end. Goes to
Sure. I mean, that would be awesome. It just depends on how much money he wants. And I don't know that the Bengals, they feel like a discount. He's going to be one of the best tight ends available in free agency.
Yeah.
He feels like, and the Bengals feel like I want to give you a discount for one of these guys, like the Evan Ingram deal that the Jags got. So
Fair.
all right, let's look at the 209. I agree with Sam Howell. I like it. I think it's the definition of risk reward. It's beautiful. It's with the rushing upside. I love it. How about another option here? And this is a big if
Right.
Atlanta doesn't bring in a quarterback through free agency, right? Jimmy G,
Yeah. Yep.
whoever the case may be,
Mhm.
Geno Smith, whoever else, put a name on it, right? I mean, think about it. You're not going to bring in Jacoby Brissett and have him start over Desmond Ritter. So I would pay this price for Desmond Ritter, the 209 for Desmond Ritter. And honestly, I want to say sorry to you guys because I didn't do enough research on Desmond Ritter to this point in the season. He balled out to end the season.
He did.
I mean,
He
if you
did,
look
bro.
at his first 2 starts, atrocious, really bad. 50% completion percentage in his first start. Then we see this progression where he gets consistently better almost each and every game. His QBR is going up, his ratings going up. He didn't throw an interception in any of those games, although I will say a lot of turnover worthy plays, but he gets better. And then versus Tampa Bay, the last game of the season, I don't think their full team was there. That could be why, but he threw 2 interceptions. I'm pretty sure the Bucs were resting. They had nothing to play for. But
Yeah.
anyway, look, risk reward here. Desmond Ritter, all of these great weapons that will be around him. The only way this doesn't pay off, and I feel confident in this, the only way this doesn't pay off is if they draft someone high or they bring in a free agent that is going to start. So
Yep.
next, let's look at the running back spot. I didn't talk about David Montgomery earlier because I wanted to talk about him here at the 209.
Okay.
I know it might be a little crazy. Think about it from this perspective. I'm looking at David Montgomery's value, his dynasty value chart for 3 months. I'm looking at that right now. And it's consistently going down. It's consistently going down, right? He was the RB25. Now we're looking at him as an RB30 or so, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not a player that I think people are confident in keeping on their team. I think you can send the 208, 209, one of these late seconds to go get David Montgomery. Hey, do you need to add a late third? Who cares? Go do it.
Right.
Honestly, go do it.
Right.
Send the 209 in a late third. So I just want to put him in there. Keep in mind 4 years of 1,000 all-purpose yards or more. He's never finished worse than RB24. He had a top 5 season a couple years ago. What we want with David Montgomery is we want what happened to James Conner when he left Pittsburgh and he went to Arizona. I think he's that caliber of running back. So I just wanted to bring him here as an option. Wide receivers, I agree with Lockett if you're competing. How about Alec Pierce here, right? Paris Campbell is a free agent. New quarterbacks incoming. CJ Stroud, maybe Bryce Young, maybe hopefully not Will Levis, but a new quarterback is coming into town. Why not Alec Pierce? They spent a 2nd-round pick on him. He tested out really well. Paris Campbell is likely gone in free agency. So why not Alec Pierce? And then if you need a tight end, I think there's better trade options with the last 2 picks instead of here. So,
Yeah, I would agree there. All right, at the 210, almost finished here, guys. The 210 quarterbacks, a guy that Zach was kind of alluding to a little bit, Jimmy G. I think this is a good place if he does get signed to the Jets, to any other team, the Saints, maybe even the Falcons, maybe at the 210. This is the area that you can go out and get a quarterback. 1 year thing, whatever the case may be for Jimmy G, then that can be an option. For the
I'll
running
just
back,
say, like, on top of this, I think Jimmy G is one of the best buys right now. It was kind of how I felt about Russell Wilson a month ago before
Yeah.
Sean Payne.
Yeah.
You don't know where Jimmy G's going. He's one of the best buys in Superflex leagues. I like it.
I would agree. I definitely would agree. In the running back room, I literally don't have anyone. I said the value really drops here at the 210. I mean, we talked about Alvin Kamara, and I told you Kenneth Gainwell, Antonio Gibson. Do you want to invest in a James Conner? No. I mean, the best thing I would probably tell you is like, okay, at the 210, look for somebody that you believe maybe can fall in a good spot. Is that Kareem Hunt? Is that a Damian Harris, right? Is that one of those guys that could be landing in an area of opportunity, which we just don't know? Because right now, according to Keep Trade Cut, all those guys are worth less than the 210, right? All those guys are nowhere near that. And you get that weird gap. Is that an Elijah Mitchell that's going to be, a 60-40 or 70-30 type guy behind CMC? You have to really find the value. There's no running backs that I want to invest in here. I'll be looking at best player available in the draft at the 210 if you were really looking at a running back. For the wide receivers, Sky Moore. It's a good option right here. You know, it's crazy to think that you can get the 210 for Sky Moore, who was going at the 110, literally a whole round earlier in your rookie draft.
You get Sky Moore for the 210.
Yes, Sky Moore.
You're saying buy Sky Moore, right? Not sell him.
Yes, I am saying
okay.
buy, but I'm also saying it's crazy that people were drafting him at nearly at the 110 a year later, totally. A year earlier.
I agree.
Sometimes even earlier than that, than the 110. So there could be a good opportunity there. Where do the Chiefs go? Do they invest in another wide receiver? I don't think they bring back Juju. I think Kadarius Toney is a done deal. Sky Moore is a done deal. Maybe they get somebody else like a Lazard, hypothetically, but we'll have to wait and see what happens there. In the tight end position, I would agree with Zach. I would say one name that also has another window that if he does come back to the same team, if he does get a contract extension, only for the team, and this team specifically, because I don't think he can repeat the same thing somewhere else, I think that's Evan Ingram. If he does stay there, but at the same time, once Evan Ingram resigns, you're not going to be able to pay him for the 210. So you take the chance right now, believing that he's going to resign or he's going to walk if you do believe in Evan Ingram going to another location. Maybe he does does the hopping around. Maybe he goes to the Commanders. Maybe he goes to the Bengals where these teams need a tight end, and he somehow integrated there once again. But at the moment, Evan Ingram right here at the 210, that's probably the best available tight end that is potentially available. I will go younger as well still.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. Like, you're going to regret that trade so much if he doesn't return to Jacksonville. And if he does, you'll feel like an absolute genius.
A genius, 100%. I mean, it's
all right.
It's tough.
On to the 211. I agree with Jimmy G. I mean, he could get a similar deal to Geno Smith. He's a little bit younger, though. Let's move on to the running backs. I know you didn't like this player when you discussed him, but let me just explain. Okay, I like this idea. I'm envisioning this idea in my head. I still think that the most talented running back in Washington, in that backfield, nothing has changed. I still think the most talented guy is Antonio Gibson. I still think he's the most talented guy there. You cannot watch Brian Robinson laterally move and tell me that he is a more talented running back. Stop it. Stop using that. But think about this. Bieniemy is in town. Scott Turner is gone. You and I, we don't know anything about this running back room anymore. We don't know anything. You don't know if Brian Robinson's going to get 20 carries a game. You don't know if Gibson's going to be completely irrelevant. But could we see, and again, I know personnel does not match completely because you don't have Patrick Mahomes, but if anyone in this backfield is going to be Jerick McKinnon, who is it going to be? It's definitely not Brian Robinson. It is probably the guy who used to play wide receiver and Antonio Gibson. From a talent perspective, you're not getting a better talent at the 211. Right. Definitely not. It's just situationally. Will Gibson situationally pay off? So that is a risk that you could take. Maybe you can get him later, but let's say you have like 3 running backs that you're really comfortable with. Take a shot on Gibson. Here, I think I would be willing to do it at least. So at the wide receiver spot, I like Sky Moore. I wanted to also bring up a rookie from last year who we haven't seen just yet, and I've brought him as a buy low before, but how about John Mechie? If Bryce Young ends up being a Houston Texan, this could be one of the biggest steals this entire offseason. Genuinely, this could be one of the biggest steals in PPR formats this entire offseason. Of course, there's no promise that Bryce will be there, but again, risk reward. That's kind of what we're looking at here in Dynasty. At the tight end spot, I don't know why you can get Trey McBride this late, but you can apparently. So I'm definitely on board with getting Trey McBride for the 211. And lastly, a sell. If you can get the 209 to the 211, I am super comfortable moving on from Isaiah Likely. Don't hear what I'm not saying, right? I am not saying he is not a talented player. I'm not saying that he could not succeed in Baltimore. What I am saying is, where did you draft him last year in rookie drafts? Cash in. Let's get a higher pick. Is Lamar back? You don't know that? I don't know that. Every day we get more and more confused. If Lamar's back, where does Isaiah Likely ever become consistently producing for you with Mark Andrews there? Right? And Mark Andrews is not leaving, guys. Lamar Jackson loves Mark Andrews if he stays there. So In what scenario does Isaiah Likely become this guy you can start? They move him to wide receiver. They put him in this. I mean, Mark Andrews is already playing that slot wide receiver hybrid role.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is a perfect time to sell high on Likely if you can get, again, the 209 to the 211. Again, I'm not saying he's not talented enough to be valued here, but situationally, I'm not sure I see where he becomes someone that you start. Yeah. And maybe I'm giving up too early. But
maybe. Here we are. It's all right. It's very difficult to understand what's going to happen with some of these guys. All right, the last one, the 212. This is where it just gets difficult, right? I mean, you come over here, you're at the end of 212, you're probably looking at your board and it's like, who the hell am I supposed to take? I'm doing the same thing. Who the hell am I supposed to tell you to trade for in the quarterback position here? You know, you're looking at it. What is it? You take a shot on Ryan Tannehill? That's too much to pay for Ryan Tannehill. Is that Malik Willis? This feels like a bit too much. A Zach Wilson? That's too much. No. Like, you move on from the tight end, the quarterback position, you go best player available in the draft, in my personal opinion here. And that's for both running back, quarterback, and running back. Once again, in the running back position, where can you go? Like Zach was talking about Antonio Gibson. Do you look at one of these guys and say, there's a chance there for somebody? Maybe Lenny gets re-signed somehow, somewhere else. You just don't know what's going to happen. So until we understand the landscape of some of these guys, maybe the running back position, there's going to be some value there for the 212. But right now, I would hold both if you were in need of a quarterback or in need of a running back, either way.
Yeah, and just quickly, I would say, so we keep talking about how everything could change this year for the landscape of the running backs, right?
Right.
And that's true, but because we all know that, and I would say everyone in the Dynasty community is in agreement on that, there's going to end up being values. You just got to bet on the right people, because some of these guys are going to end up being more valuable than they currently are.
Exactly.
We just don't know who those guys are. So
exactly,
you're right. It's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, it's tough. All right, for the wide receiver position, I have Josh Palmer for the 212. You know, if Keenan Allen walks, maybe they don't draft somebody. Hypothetical. Maybe Josh Palmer is a good wide receiver too. We saw him take a good step this year when both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen was out. For a little stint there, he was coming fantasy round. I think Zach hit a prop on Underdog, by the way. I mean, it was Josh Palmer. I think it was over higher than 6 point something targets potentially. I think it was something along those lines. I can't remember. Another guy I would say probably playing at the highest premium, I would say here at the 212, Donovan Peoples-Jones, another team that is going to be really hard for them to invest. We saw a nice little window for DPJ to kind of take an opportunity. Do you take the shot on DPJ here at the 212, or you go with best player available? Still only 24 years old for Donovan Peoples-Jones, which is absolutely crazy. So take a shot with him and Deshaun Watson. In the tight end position, not much. You take a shot at some of your guys. I would say Daniel Bellinger. I think you can definitely get him here in a Dawson Knox if you believe in a Dawson Knox. But other than that, I mean, once again, the 212, you either get best player available in the draft, or if you can trade for one of these guys when you understand the landing spot, or if you want to take a shot, that's what I'll be doing for each and every position here at the 212.
This might be controversial, but I almost feel like I would prefer the 212 to those guys. Maybe. Like Dawson Knox to me, I'm sorry, I just don't know when that returns value.
When it's going to come back.
I'll take a shot on the 212.
Yeah. I would agree. I guess I'm just going
especially I think we're seeing, again, which will change with draft capital, but we're seeing Musgrave fall to this area. So
if all those tight ends are off the board and you are desperately in need of a tight end, you have a Zach Ertz say he retires, you're desperately in need of a tight end, you might have to do something like this, or
you might. If you're in that tough position, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, guys, that is going to be it for today. Hey, let us know if you like this video. I don't think we're going to do the third round.
Oh, no way. No way.
But, hey, if we get, let's say right now, if we get 350 likes on this, we'll do a third round.
Sure. 350. See you then.
Which is not going to happen. We're not going to get 350. If we get 350 likes, we'll do a third round and kind of eat our own words. But do us a favor, drop a like or don't. Subscribe if you like Dynasty content, and we'll see you in the next video. All of Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos.
Watch it.
You can also subscribe.
Right now.
If you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/fantasylandfam.